Alright guys, this is Alan recording a Ravnica Allegiance draft to Mythic. The last draft I did was M20. I was pretty much one game away from Mythic. And now I decide maybe, hey, I'm just going to finish it with a draft from another set, which I'm quite good at, so let's just go. Alright, pack 1, pick 1, what is there? There's Amplifier, which is only a great card in Gruul. It can still be feasible in Rakdos, but you would like to, for the most part, played in Gruul, just because there's a lot of most of the high power and high toughness creatures are in are basically in green and not necessarily black. If you, for example, if Amplifier just revealed a for example, a 2/1 or 2/2, it's pretty underwhelming. But regardless, it's an excellent card in Gruul, and I can't see it in any other archetype. Let's see. Yep. It only rewards the players who decide to go Gruul and play big heavy creatures. So that's kind of a limitation to this card, I guess, that you have to pigeonhole yourself in the beginning of a draft just to play this. Second good card we have Fireblade Artist. Excellent 2-drop in Rakdos. The ability to give it haste is pretty nice. You might have to sacrifice a good finisher if you have a lot of creatures on the battlefield and the opponent has a giant wall and you manage to bring their life total down by a lot. Other uncommons, there's Sky Tether. Sky Tether is decent only if you're playing in a flying archetype. Otherwise, if you're looking to attack in the ground and you manage to Sky Tether one of the creatures, then it just becomes a wall for you to get past. So Rumbling Ruin is a fine curve topper in Gruul. Not necessarily. It's fine to have this as a great curve topper, but I don't know if it's at the same power level, perhaps Fireblade Artist or Amplifier in the respective guilds. Looking at the commons, what do we have? Nothing much. There's a Savage Smash, which is very excellent. Definitely splashable in Simic. In the Teamer colors, this is very good. Just an effective removal spell is pretty nice. So looking at this pack, there's 3 cards I will only consider. Amplifier is great in Gruul, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't offer the flexibility of, playing it in Rakdos, which is a problem. Fireblade Artist, same thing. Between two of these, if there wasn't Savage Smash in the pack, I'd probably just lean towards Amplifier because the payoff is much more higher if I play this in Gruul. While in Fireblade Artist, usually you want to keep creatures in the battlefield and not sacrifice them. This card can get out of hand if you play it in a Gruul deck. Now the question is the power level and build around for draft for Gruul high enough that I want to take it over an excellent removal spell such as Savage Smash? Savage Smash, for the most part, you do want to play this in a Gruul deck anyways. Usually you want to splash. You can splash this in Simic, which is a good splash by itself. It's not really splashable in Rakdos because Rakdos is not looking to splash. They're looking to stick primarily with their main 2 colors, that being black and red, and to constantly place threats on the board and to curve out every single turn without having any issues. Regardless, even though Savage Smash has a little bit of flexibility, I can mostly see this being played in Gruul for the most part. It's fine to splash this in Simic, but again, you have to find the Gruul gates. You have to find mana fixing for it, and that can be a big problem. So I guess I'm just going to go with the Amplifier and make a Gruul deck. Let's see. Alright, pack 2. There's some great cards, but nothing in Gruul. Mortify is probably the best card in this pack. 3 mana, instant speed, destroy target creature enchantment is very powerful. The ability to destroy enchantments are very powerful in this format. there's lots of enchantments running around. Sometimes it might be even reasonable to run Exposed to Daylight, which is an enchantment removal effect. Things like Ill-Gotten Inheritance, Theater of Horrors, Angelic Exaltation, and the Big Bomb Ethereal Absolution needs to be answered sometimes. Even Dovin's Acuity, High Alert needs to be answered, so Mortify is definitely very powerful, and I don't mind picking this up. Because enchantments are... Yeah, I mean, this can even answer the second best card in this pack, which is Law Mage's Binding. It is an enchantment, pretty much a removal spell by itself, and the great feature about this is that it can punish players who, for example, I mean not punish, but it's really effective against, for example, black decks that are currently trying to cast Death Revels onto their creatures in the graveyard, and this locks the creature down. Yes, second best card in this pack. Third card will probably be Final Payment. Another great removal spell, but never going to take it over Mortify. And then there's Cold Guildmage, which is red, but again, Amplifier does not pair well in Rakdos. So easy Mortify here. By picking up the Mortify, it's possible that I move to an Ozhov deck or Esper. Basically blue, white, and black. Gives me a lot of flexibility to splash. It's possible that I might move to a Mardu deck, who knows. Maybe Rakdos splashing for the Mortify, but again, Amplifier does not pair well in that guild, so let's just take the Mortify and move on. Nice follow-up. We do have some excellent white cards here in this pack. Cold Constraint is a pretty good card. Doesn't necessarily remove a creature, but the flexibility of being able to tap down a creature so it doesn't untap during the control's next upstep is pretty cool. The ability to cycle and draw this card's a pretty nice instant speed trick. I mean, it's kind of like Befuddle again in the M20 format, but just the addendum having to tap down creatures makes this a significantly better spell. But I wouldn't pick it over some of the other cards in this pack. St. Guildmage is great. 2 mana, 2/2, very efficient creature. Just by paying 1 white, you can gain life if you're able to stall out the board against an aggressive opponent, and basically make it much difficult for them to race you down. The blue ability is most likely the one that you want to use. However, against most other opposing players, just being able to loot for 1 mana is really nice. What else? There's Imperious Oligarch, which is great. Great 2-drop, in fact. 2 mana, 2/1 Vigilance with extra Afterlife is great. So it's basically 2 bodies in 1. So looking at this pack, there's only 2 considerations here. St. Guildmage is by far a much more powerful card than Imperious Oligarch. But the question is it so significantly powerful that we pass up on it when we are kind of leaning towards Ozhov? We can still be Esper, of course. We can take the Senate Guildmage and maybe decide to splash the Mortify, but again, that will need a little bit of work and gate fixing. Sometimes it's better to just stick with stick with 2 colors for the most part and not overcomplicate things. And even though Senate Guildmage, I believe, is stronger than Guildmage, I don't think the power level is so significant that you will pass this up. Just having a 2/1 attacker with the Afterlife token can synergize well in an Ozhov deck, can be a nice aggressive threat. Usually Senate Guildmage isn't for an aggressive deck. For more of a controlling deck, you'll probably leave this behind for the most part just to loot. And who knows, maybe the next pack it will be the bot to my right will be passing Ozhov cards or Azorius cards, but at this moment I think I want to stay safe. I would like to play in a deck that doesn't even require me to splash, just to make things more consistent. So let's take the Imperious Oligarch here and move on. Alright, some great cards in this pack again. There's Plague White. This is a good 2-drop. There's another Cold Guildmage, which I don't think I want to splash for with our current colors. Plague White is a good 2-drop. Pretty effective creature. This card being able to trade up or block an opposing one toughness creature and getting a free trade off is really nice. It can be a nightmare for one toughness creatures to block, and even if the creature has high toughness, having one power doesn't necessarily kill this card when they block. Another great card in this deck, in this pack, would be Azorius Knight Arbiter. Really pretty nice Azorius flavored card. So again, it's between these two. 2-drops are very important in draft. Given that we take an Imperious Oligarch, I am leaning towards Plague White. Azorius Knight Arbiter is definitely a much more powerful card, but Plague White is still pretty strong itself. Azorius Knight Arbiter would have been great if we went with the Senate Guildmage last pack. Set up for a nice Azorius control or Temple deck. But here, I think I'm going to just take the Plague White and stick towards Ozhov. If something happens and the bot to my right does not end up passing me any good Ozhov cards, I guess I'm going to start taking Azorius cards. And, you know, I might have missed out on a Azorius Knight Arbiter instead of Guildmage, and that sucks, but so be it. So, I mean, it's possible that I could still stick with Azorius, perhaps. Yeah, Plague White is good, but Azorius Knight is significantly better. But I think the power levels are slightly okay. I mean, this is a 5-drop. It does cost a lot. Yeah, it's better to just take the aggressive 2-drop. Let's pick the Plague White. Alright, some decent cards here. If we stick with Azorius, we could have had an Archway Angel as a good, pretty decent card. This does take a bit of gate build arounds, and it is quite expensive. But if you're able to drop this with at least 3 or 4 gates, gain 6 life or 8, you can pretty much stabilize and win ahead against your opponent. It's a pretty nice card. If we stuck with the Azorius flavored cards, where we're looking at Chillbringer is really nice. 5 mana, 3/3, able to tap down a creature. You know, it's a really nice defensive and aggressive tempo card. Great in the Azorius Flyers. The most flexible card out of this pack, however, is Senate Griffin, which could be the card I might just take from this pack. Even if I was leading, even if I picked up Azorius Knight Arbiter and the Senate Griffin, I mean, if I picked up Azorius Knight Arbiter in the last pack, I would have still maybe stuck with the Senate Griffin. It's pretty decent flyer with good stat lines, good power, a little bit low toughness, but the ability to scry 1 is pretty nice, making this a flyer is pretty nice. In M20, there's also a 4 mana 3/2 flyer, but in that format, I think it's better off. The card isn't as good as a 3/2 flyer in this format. So what are we looking at? We're looking to go Ozhov. We could try to splash the Chillbringer, gives us a 5-drop that. Let's take the Amplifier here. I don't think we're gonna play it. It gives us 5 mana 3/3 flying, or we can just take the Sand Griffin, easy 4-drop. Doesn't require anything. And I think it would just be the Sand Griffin just to remain more flexible. I could still move the Azorius, of course, but this could fit in both builds. Having one of these is pretty nice. Chillbringer is definitely a better card, but I don't think the power level of it and the mana cost of it would incentivize me to take this the blue card over the one that's flexible. Now it's between Archway Angel and Sand Griffin. Archway Angel does require more build around. It is probably a much more powerful card than a Senate Griffin. Azorius, I mean, Ozhov does want to be aggressive for the most part, so you want to keep your curve low. I mean, I can still see this being played. It's still fine in maybe an aggressive deck as a curve topper, but let's see here. With the current picks, we are looking to move towards an aggressive Ozhov build, so maybe the Sand Griffin just fits in more nicely. We don't really care about stalling out the late game. Archway Angel seems to work better in more of a controlling deck. Probably Azorius. You can gain a life gain. The toughness is pretty nice. The 4 toughness can help block other flyers in the air, and it's hard to get through. But given that we pick in these first 3 cards, it makes me just want to take the Sand Griffin, stay open, even though these 2 are much more powerful. Let's just take the Sand Griffin and move on. Now, what do we have? We have a decent okay 2-drop. There's a Skewer to Critics, which is great. Impassioned Orator is not that exciting, however. It's just a 2-mana, 2/2, I guess. Um, it's fine. The life gain is decent. You do need 2-drops in this format. It does has that 2 toughness, which is pretty nice. But I don't know if I can take it over Skewer. Skewer is still splashable, still pretty nice in the Mardu deck. Sometimes removal is scarce, and um, you are kind of forced into splashing it just to remove a creature card. And usually you can pick up enough 2-drops later in the pack that I think I'm just going to take the more powerful card, which is Skewer to Critics. Okay, what are we looking at? Senate Messenger is pretty nice. 4-mana 2/3 flyer with Afterlife 1. Even though it's has less power than Sand Griffin, I think they're almost close in the same power level since this leaves back an Afterlife token. Who knows? I think Sand Griffin might just be better just because of the power is higher than the toughness. The 3 power can make a significant difference if you're trying to be aggressive, while the 2 power is a little bit slow and behind. But it helps with leaving behind tokens that sacrifice fodders, chump blockers, etc. There's still a Collision Colossus, but there weren't any great Gruul cards. In the other packs, just great white cards in general. Are we ever going to move to Rakdos? Probably not, so I don't think these cards matter. Let's just take the Syndicate Guildmage and move on. Alright, nothing much here. Sand Courier is a fine wall for Azorius. It's a fine blocker. It's not really a good aggressive card. This card does work very well in a high alert deck. By the end of the day, if you're playing Azorius, you might as well. It's decent 3-drop for Azorius, and a fine blocker as well, but not something you want to play aggressively. So if we picked up Senate Guildmage and the Azorius Knight Arbiter, we would be looking at this card as a fine 3-drop. What do we have in this pack for us? Concordian Pegasus is not good enough, unfortunately. The 1 power is not great. At the end of the day, it works better in Azorius deck where you need a blocker in the ground on turn 2, and maybe you can cast High Alert in your deck eventually and get this to 3 power toughness. There's a Restor Seal, which could be an okay combat trick. Not a high pick here. Sometimes you do need that +2/+2 to get to lethal or make a fine trade, but usually you can get blown out by combat tricks a little bit easily, especially if the opponent's running lots of removal spells like Mortify or Grotesque Demise. Instant speed ones, that's for sure. So Arrestor Seals could be fine 1 copy of, but not high on it. There's a Knight of Last Breath, which could be a fine curve topper. Not a great card in general. I mean, it's great. It's pretty nice if you can get on 7 and you're playing more of a mid-range aggro, mid-range Ozhov deck. Could be a fine curve topper. Could help, you chump block an opponent, and then you can use the ability to sacrifice the creature, make an Afterlife token. Can help you stall out the game. The Afterlife 3 is pretty nice on it. I think I'm just going to take it here because it's an uncommon, and it's a little bit more hard to find, while Restor Zeal it's pretty easy to find, but I think it would fit in our deck more than Azori Knight of the Last Breath, but I'm just going to take it here. Okay, in this pack, what do we have? Not a big fan of Sky Tether, but the rest of these cards aren't exciting as well. It's just is there a possibility we move into Azorius? We might use a Quench. Quench is not great as well, but sometimes it can find targets. The opponent does not really respect the 2 blue that you open up, and it manages to counter a spell, and you feel happy about it. But in the late game, this card is not really good because the opponent can again just leave up 2 mana and they can pay for it. But it can find targets. Let's see. Sky Tether kind of sucks, but Sky Tether would be better suited in Azorius deck regardless, because just the flexibility of being able to stall out an opposing flying creature and prevent it from attacking and blocking is pretty nice, while you're usually attacking through the air. So in case we do move into Azorius next pack, I think Sky Tether would make more sense. Rumbling Ruin, again, it's only good in Gruul. Come on, you need counters on the creature. Fine finisher, fine curve topper, but not even going to plan to splash. Let's just take the Sky Tether here. Happy with a final payment. Looks like we are in the right guild. Great with tokens and afterlife, and maybe last resort we have an enchantment we need to sacrifice just to preserve our life total and destroy a creature. Happy with a final payment. I think this is a good reason to move into Ozhov now, or maybe Mardu might splash to skew the critics, but most of these cards are Ozhov anyways, so let's take the final payment. Don't mind a Footlight Fiend. Find 1 mana creature. I might cut it because it might not fit the bill, but it can still trade into a opposing 2 toughness creature. Works well with Bladebrand. Can ping off a 1 toughness creature, which black decks are littered with in this format. So don't hate it. Find 1 drop. Now these cards I really would consider. Taking the uncommon for the vault. Guess there's a possibility we could go Azorius. Who knows? Or splash it. Alright, so, happy with a Bladebrand. Wow, that's definitely an incentive to move to black and go Azorius. So what are we looking for? Maybe another removal spell. More creatures around the 2 slot in the early games. Some Blade Jugglers would be nice. Grasping Throws would be nice as fine 5 drops. Maybe a way to splash a Spear for critics. Spear to critics. This is a core outline of our deck, and I'm happy with it. Just needs a little bit more work, and we should have a pretty strong Ozhov deck. So let's move on to Pack 2. Alright, our Ozhov cards. Our Ozhov Uncommon is not that great. It's Ozhov Racketeers, 5 mana 3/2. It's pretty okay. The problem is that usually don't want to pay 5 mana for a 3/2. Sure, it has Afterlife too, but at the end of the day, they're just 1/1 flyers that just chump block, and this gets traded by two cost cards too easily. Like cards like Play White and Imperious Oligarch are a nightmare for this card to deal with. It's also 5 mana, which is quite expensive, so not a big fan of this card. Plaza of Harmony, not much. You gain 3 life. Okay. Clamor Shaman could be a splashable card, but it works just better it's excellent in both Rakdos and Gruul, but we're not going those colors. What's great in this pack is definitely the Grotestimize. Given if this was pack 1, I'd probably just take it here. Being able to exile a creature is pretty nice, especially if they have token Afterlife. If they're annoying flyers, for example, this targets a lot of them. There's a lot of 3-power creatures in this format, again. 3 power or less, that is, and especially flyers. This is great, so it's probably going to be my pick here. If this wasn't a pack, what would I decide on? Maybe probably just get to the point and hope to splash red, move to a Mardu build, but I'm happy with the Grotesque Minds. Let's just take it here. Alright, so, Teysa is great, but Teysa does require a lot more tokens in Afterlife. Definitely a powerful card if you can make it work. There's Imperious Oligarch and Syndicate Messenger, maybe even Knight, so it's probably going to just be my pick here. Great card in general if you have enough tokens. If you don't, this card kind of sucks. It's not a card that you want to really splash for. It's a card that is a great payoff if you have a lot of Afterlife. However, it's also great if you're splashing for. I think there's a card in this set, Warrant Warden, if you want to use the 5 mana ability to make a powerful 4 mana 4/4 token, flying token of Vigilance. This is pretty nice. It allows the tokens to gain lifelink. But usually you just want to play this in a straight up Azorius deck. Ozhov, my bad. If this wasn't a pack, what would I consider? Maybe just a Guild Gate, maybe an Exposed to Daylight, which isn't wrong to main deck in this format. I mean, even I already have Mortify though, which can take care of an enchantment, but usually you want removal to take out a creature. This could offer me the flexibility of destroying these enchantments. They're a bit of a nuisance. There's also Ozhov Locket, which I wouldn't hate. It would have been a hard choice to pick from. There's also Lawmage's Binding, which is great, but don't want to make the splash. too confusing for the draft. So easy Tesa here, and let's move on to the next choice. Okay, happy to see a Consecrate Consume. Very powerful card, powerful removal spell. You want a lot of removal spells in limited. So let's see, let's look at removal spells. Maybe Skewer is a removal spell. Grotesque Demise is a removal spell. Blade Brand can kind of be a removal spell, but I mean, it's not really 2 for 1. You're trading a card for a card. You play 2 cards to take out a creature, but you manage to draw a card, so just a card for a card. So it could be, I guess it can count as removal, just not that efficient. We could use another removal spell. Consecrate Consume is definitely one of those powerful removal spells that gain you life, and you can target a big green opposing creature. Against green, this is quite a nightmare because they have to get rid of their big power creatures, and you gain a bunch of life off of it. Really good card. Could be awkward against decks that go wide with little creature tokens, but then again, even killing a 3/3 power creature of this is really good. What else is in the pack? If this wasn't in the pack, there's an Illidan Inheritance. This is a great enchantment. It's really good. It's really strong. It's only best in an aggressive deck for the most part, but yeah, an aggressive beatdown deck, which is usually what you play in limited regardless. And in Ozhov, I mean, pinging for 1 per turn and gain life is pretty nice, but that's not why it's great. It's great because of the 6-mana ability in the late game, which can just drain the opponent out by dealing 4 damage to them and gaining 4 life while you're already ahead. Very excellent card. I wouldn't mind taking it. However, it's not as powerful as Consecrate Consume, unfortunately. And I think I might just take it here. So, yep. Orzhov looks really open here. What else now? I guess we can take our Impassioned Orator in case we don't have a 2-drop. Sphinx of the Guild pack is alright, but it costs a lot of mana. We already have a 7-drop. Usually, you don't want to get the 7 mana until you finally cast a big bomb, usually, unless you have the ramp for it. And I can see this being played even in a deck that has a lot of ramp, such as Simic, which is the only, pretty much the only guild that provides this source of ramps from Gyre Engineer. Definitely a fine card to have if you don't have a good curve topper, but usually you just want to have your 2-drop slots filled in and discard mix the build. Not a big fan of Blood Mist Infiltrator. Again, this is a 1 toughness creature that can easily blanked. Sure, you can sacrifice a creature and get 3 damage across, but you will need a lot of those, and usually sacrificing creatures is quite detrimental in this format because you want lots of creatures to beat down and destroy the opponent. So let's take an Impassioned Orator and move on. Alright, that's a late Dovin's Acuity. I don't think we want to splash that. I mean, we have Mortify that goes well if it's Grotesque Demise. Final Payments, I guess. It does make things a little bit awkward because we do need to pick up the blue for the splashing, of course. And I don't know if we are playing a control deck. We could be, but Orzhov does not look like that. That does not look like the plan for Orzhov for the most part. You're just trying to beat down the opponent with your evasive creatures and you know, just beat them with just attack on the ground with minions for the most part and flyers. So I can see this in a Azorius Clear the Mind deck, which has been quite popular with the streamers on Twitch. Just being able to draw a card, gain life is pretty nice. What else? I guess the pick here will probably just be the Syndicate Messenger. But our 4-drops are looking kind of stacked. Maybe we just need to pick up a 3-drop. Noxious Grudian, which is okay. There's a Chillbringer here which again is a consideration for a splash. And I'd probably, at this point, pick it over Dovin's Acuity if I want to splash, because just because I don't even really have that many instances and sorceries. Instances that I want to cast on my main phase just to proc this ability. And just having a 5-mana 3/3 that locks down a creature is really nice. But probably just a Syndicate Messenger over here, or I can just pick up the 3-drop. So I guess this pick is for curve considerations. It's a high chance that I'm already sticking with Orzhov, and I don't know if I want to move to Azorius or make it more awkward to splash a gate. because it's better to just play cards in your color, rather just instead of splashing them, unless they're huge bombs. So might just be leaning towards Noxious Grudian. Might need that 3-drop, but I could use another 4-drop filler flyer. And I think Syndicate Messenger is just a better card than Noxious Grudian. Did I just take it? Who knows? Maybe I need a Death Touch early in the game. I can definitely see it being kind of relevant. And we can always pick up more 4-drops later. But I mean, I guess this works better with Tesa, so let's just take it here. Happy taking Ozhov Guildgate, not going to take a Prowling Caracal. Clear the stage is only fine as a Black Splash in Gruul, -3/-3 for 5 mana is pretty underwhelming. Power 4 greater, you usually don't get that in Rakdos or Ozhov. It's a fine splash in Gruul because you have that ability. And, you know, this is pretty nice, pretty decent splash in a Gruul, but it's kind of hard to do, you know, when there's already a great Gruul cards like Rubble Belt Recluse and Mammoth Spider and even great 2-drop. But it's pretty much not a good pick. Bankroll and Blood, again, it's really not played in most formats. I mean, it is, but that's a lot of tokens, and I usually don't want to sacrifice that many just to draw 3 cards. There's a card called Blood Divination, which costs, I think, 4 mana in M19, which only requires you to sacrifice 1 creature and draw 3 cards. And there was a lot of good sacrifice cards going on. But here, I think I'm just going to take the Ozhov Guildgate to keep a good mana fix. Prowling Caracal is not a good 2-drop. I mean, it's fine if you can get away with it, but don't expect to. Opponents are not dumb. They have 2-drops always to trade off with it, so let's pick the Guildgate. Now what's there? This is only Great and Azorius. I guess now we can take our 3-drop. There's also a nice Locket which can help us ramp. Don't Hate one as well. It's debatable between these two, but I'm fine taking a 3-mana 2/2 with Death Touch. Death Touch can be relevant against big green creatures and cards with lots of high toughness. Sometimes you just need that Death Touch to stall them out, and Noxious Grudian is a nice card for it. There's also Gate for splashing, but yeah, let's just take it here. Happy of an Grotesque Demise, definitely the strongest card in his pack. Don't think I need to analyze anymore. Macabre Mockery is sometimes it's kind of an underrated card in Rakdos. I want to talk about this. You can use this as a removal spell by using it on your opponent's graveyard. You can use this as a finisher. It does cost a lot, not a high pick, but I had games in the past where the opponent used a card from my graveyard to trade off with an attacking creature that I was using. So it could be used as a removal spell, but definitely Grotesque Mice here. Alright, I guess we can try to take the Ozhov Racketeers and play as a 5-drop. There's really nothing else in this pack. Let's move this to the side. Yep, let's just take it here in case we don't have any 5-drops. Guess I'm taking my first Locket here. There's also Exposed to Daylights, but those tend to wheel. I think I prefer a Locket before an Exposed, just because it's more situational to cast an Exposed to Daylights. Sometimes the ramp is necessary, sometimes the card draw is necessary. Let's just take it here. Alright, 10th District Veteran, not a great 3-drop, but might as well take it if I don't have any fillers. Most likely won't play it, but you never know. Fairy Duelist is late. So, Debtor's Transport maybe, just in case I don't get a good late game going on. Okay, so final pack, what are we looking for? More early game, we didn't find any good 2-drops for us. Our removal spells look pretty stacked, but I wouldn't mind one more perhaps. 3-drops have a hole, maybe some Grasping Throws that can fly over. Ozhov seemed open in the last packs. The bottom on my right could be passing me Ozhov better or good Ozhov cards. But I think we're in the right guild, and let's move on. Happy with Pilis Pontiff. There's also a great removal spell, Bedeck. Bedeck is very excellent. Goes well in Rakdos and Ozhov just because of the double black and double red. Pretty nice commitment, but looking at our removal spells, we already have 5, which are pretty nice. I don't want to make it awkward by casting double black just to remove it, while we rather have some 2-drops, otherwise this deck is not going to be functional. The better 2-drop is definitely Pilis Pontiff. Does require us to have some sacrifice fire, which we do have with the afterlife cards that we picked up, and Tesa in the late game, and maybe some of these other cards near the curve topper, which aren't that great, but we might play them. Just the ability to give this death touch all the time makes attacking green creatures have face a huge nightmare attacking into into you. If you're already ahead in the race, attacking with this is nice too, because they'll be forced to block with their big green creatures, and you can just get a nice trade off of it. Syndicate Guildmage is good, but probably not as good as Pilis Pontiff. At the end of the day, it's 2-mana 2/2. It has the ability to drain life from the opponent in the late game for 5 mana, which is not bad, and lock down a high power creature. The high power stuff does not come up a whole lot unless you're facing against green. Usually Orzhov and Rakdos are the strongest, most popular guilds in this format, and this could be a whiff sometimes. And paying 5 mana to just deal 2 damage, usually you just want to develop a creature. So I think I like the Pitiless Pontiff here, and let's move on. Another Mortify, not going to say no to it. There's also an Ill-Gotten Inheritance, which is pretty nice. Wouldn't mind a first copy, but just the power level of Mortify is just so significant compared to Ill-Gotten Inheritance. I don't think we need to take it. So this will pretty much solidify removal from now on. And hopefully we pick up more creatures. What else? Racketeers, we have one. Consign is a decent one of. But usually, you know, it's kind of a filler replaceable 6-drop spell. I mean, it's a little bit expensive and clunky. There's also a clunky removal spell in M20 called Reduce to Ashes. This one costs a little bit more, 1 mana more, and it's kind of slow, but I can see myself playing it. Okay, happy with an Ill-Gotten Inheritance. We do have a huge hole at 3, so we need to pick up some creatures soon. Other than that, what else? Don't think we're splashing for a Gates Ablaze. Undersea Scavenger could be fine, but our 4s are already decent enough. Let's just take the Ill-Gotten Inheritance and move on. Grasping Throw, I'm happy to have a 5-drop of. If there was a 2-drop, I'd probably just a 3-drop. I might consider it, but I guess we can curve out into Grasping Throw with the Orzhov Lockets. Nothing I would ever consider in this pack again. Drill Bit's only fine in Rakdos, but let's just pick the throw and move on. Okay, a bunch of 4-drops here, but we're stacked with 4-drops. There's no way we're ever going to play Gate Colossus at this point. Pack 3 is just way too much. We already have 2 Syndicate Guild Messengers, so I don't think we need a 4th one, even though it has synergy with Tesa and Pilis Pontiff. Maybe 2 Ill-Gotten Inheritances can help us close out the game, make us draw them more consistently. There's a problem with this deck, though, and that problem is that it's not aggressive enough, so we might just have to sell a mid-range Orzhov deck. We do have 2 messengers already. What else? We have a lot of creatures that drop Afterlife for Pilis Pontiff, so I can see myself taking my 2nd copy and moving on from there. I'm happy with a 2nd Imperious Oligarch. If this wasn't a pack, what would I pick? Maybe just a Resolute Watchdog as a fine 1-drop blocker. This card is pretty nice. It's a great card for control deck, of course, and it could be fine aggressive to protect cards such as Grasping Throw and our Flyers to get over, and maybe even Death Touchers, but definitely not going to take it over Imperious Oligarch. Resolute Watchdog can overperform, you never know, but just take it here. Guess we can settle in with a Plague Whites. There's Daggercaster, that's a splash consideration, but let's just take the 2-drop here. I explained enough of this card, why it's good, and let's just take it. Kind of have a hole at 3, but I mean, what can you do? I love Dead Revels. Powerful card, great way to bring back Grasping Throws, especially Flyers, and so on. And even Tesa, let's just take it. Nothing here, I would never play this card. 5 mana 3/3 is pretty bad. Maybe a 2nd Blade Brand with the Footlight Fiend could be worth it. I guess a 3rd Ill-Gotten. I don't know if that's overkill. Don't think I need any more 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, I think 2 Ill-Gottens can be enough. We might just take the Consign to the pit. It could just replace Debtor's Transport. Let's just take it here. don't think I'm playing any of these. I mean, let's keep it there. Main deck drill bits. Who knows? Okay. So even though our guild was open, we didn't have enough 3-drops, but hopefully we can just stabilize in the early game. We have, I mean, I guess we can play the 10th District Veteran. Who knows? It's not a good card, but let's see. So how's our deck looking like? Could be a 16 land deck. I can see myself cutting out the expensive late game cards, just because we have a lot of early 2-drops that are quite aggressive. Let's see, I don't mind a Footlight Fiend, to be honest. With double Blade Brand, it could be nice as well. You can also just use Blade Brand to cycle, which is fine, but it goes very well with Footlight Fiend. So what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 2-drops. So maybe we're just leaning towards aggressive for the most part. And we can just cut the late game stuff. We're definitely not playing Swirling Torrent, so let's take that out. Hello, computer? Alright. Neither Sorrows is probably not even going to make it. Debtor's Transport's too expensive. Rather just play Consigned to the Pit for the most part. Definitely liking these removal spells. Skewer is not splashable. For our current configuration, I don't... Drill bit, what do I think about this? It's better off if you can cast Spectacle with it, I guess. Could be fine. Taking out a nice bomb that the opponent is playing. We do have Forgotten Inheritances to trigger the Spectacle. But at the end of the day, it's just a card for a card. Sorry, I had to drink my soda that the ice melted already. Yeah, maybe it's consideration. There's a 10th District Veteran. Not a great card, but we might just need for it as a dumb 3-drop. Otherwise, what are we playing on 3? Like, nothing, pretty much. I mean, I guess we can just play a bunch of 2-drops, but I think we need 3s to fill out the curve, especially with a bunch of 4s. Dead Revels. Okay, let's say we cut the drill bit. We cut the Knight. We cut the Racketeers. We cut a land. Now 3 more cuts. Maybe we were running too many removal spells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like, I don't hate the 2-drops. I think we need them. We could just cut the 10th District Veteran, to be honest. It's pretty off. It's not a great card. The 4-drops I actually like. I don't hate myself a Consign, to be honest. Like a couple of Dead Revels. Mortify is nice. Grotesque Demise is nice. So 2 more cuts. Let's see. I could just cut the Consign to the Pit, perhaps. It's kind of too expensive for a removal spell. We already have a bunch of removal spells already, so at a lower cost, so maybe we just don't run it. Could just cut a Blade Brand, of course. Footlight Fiend. Footlight Fiend could be decent. I mean, it also helps trigger Teysa, which could be nice. Triggering twice. So let's think. Maybe cut a Blade Brand. I think I do need the 2-drops just to stabilize in the early game. But I can see myself maybe cutting Impassioned Orator. Hard choices. I think we might have enough token synergy that that Teysa is fine. Teysa is just a fine 4-drop blocker at the end of the day as well. I don't mind having a 1-drop, that's for sure. I mean, maybe Footlight Fiend isn't that great in this deck. Sure, the dream is to have it with Blade Brand and maybe trigger twice with Teysa, but it's really not that great. So I can see myself cutting it. But, I mean, it can still have some utility. For example, maybe it helps ping off a 1-drop flyer or a 1/1 flyer or a 2/1. So I can see it having utility in early game. So maybe I can just cut a Blade Brand. Hopefully the dream is to get Blade Brand with Footlight Fiend. Blade Brand can still be a fine way to cycle through the deck in case we have nothing, but we have a milling removal spell for days, so yeah, I think this is just a deck here. I guess we're just going to get Mythic with an Ozhov deck. Definitely favoring black over white. Looking at our mana base, 8, 9, 7, 8. I guess this is fine. Yep, and we should name this Mythic Ozhov 2019 draft deck. Draft, okay. Yep, and I'm probably just going to start another video after this, because I'm probably not going to. It's probably not going to make it past 2 hours if I want to finish this run. So, yep. See you guys then.